Welcome to The Artist Matters. I'm Alex Rudy, and each week you will meet incredible artists from all walks of life. Filmmakers, writers, actors, painters, musicians, and so many more, sharing their stories to motivate and inspire the creative in you. Whether you're doing it for fun or looking to make a living, this show will help you on your journey to bring out the artist within and letting the world know that your art matters. Well, hello everybody. This is Alex Rudy, and this is the Artist Matters podcast. First episode. So glad you're here with me. And as you heard from the show's intro, we're here to talk about artists. Meet all kinds of people and hear their stories. How did they get into it? Was it a natural ability? Were family and friends encouraging? And where do they go with it? Was it something they just had fun with? Or was it something that they took in another direction and made it a career? Or are starting the journey and possibly making it a career? And one of the most important things I hope you get out of this podcast when you hear their stories is how their art helped them through their lives. We all go through struggles, things get in the way, things happen. Somehow, some way, our art does get us through it. It can be such a positive force and a positive outlet when life throws you those curveballs. You're going through struggles, trying to get through obstacles. I'm definitely speaking from personal experience. When I've had problems, I've been at low points. My art has found a way to lift me up and help me through those times. And I'm sure many of our guests share a similar story. It's important that we hear their stories because if you're an artist trying to get your work out there or trying to figure out what your niche is, I believe these stories will help give you a little motivation, a little inspiration, and a drive that you never knew you had to get out there and create something for the world, because the world does need art. And one of the great things about art is it still manages to thrive in times of hardship. Just to use an example, in 2008, when our recession was at its highest, it was a pretty big year in the movies. You had The Dark Knight, the Marvel Cinematic Universe began with Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, and it was such a big year for movies. So, art finds a way to get us through those hard times. Whether it is a movie, a play, a painting, a comic book, a song, there seems to be almost no limit to how art can shape our lives for the better. In looking back on my creative life, that's when I realized how art snuck in there when I was facing hardships or when I fell back or when I was just being plain lazy and letting other stuff run my life. Art always found a way to get back in there and opened up new doors to me, whether it was acting in a play for the first time, being in a movie as an extra, doing voiceover work, being in dinner theater, being a director. And when I turned away from my art or put it to the side, that's when things started going awry. Life was kind of crappy. I wasn't doing much with myself. But when I went back to my art and embraced it, things would change for the better. New opportunities would arise, and new creative outlets were available. So, let's take you back to my origin story and see how art has shaped my journey. As far back as I can remember, I was drawing. Comic books and cartoons were my thing. I loved Marvel and DC Comics, and I soaked them up. And yes, I looked back, and I still have some of my drawings when I was about 4 or 5. I had these bendy arms, but you could tell it was them, the way I colored them. Hey, that's Superman, and that's Captain America. And family and friends knew early on that one of the best presents I could get for a holiday or birthday would be a sketch pad. Because I just draw like crazy. I'd carry that thing with me everywhere. And yes, I use crayons, but I really liked colored pencils. I had one of those Spectra things. They had like 48 colors. Oh, that was heaven to me. It was just a part of me. And I drew all the time. People were amazed by my talent at such a young age, and I kind of wanted to be part of it. They asked if I could do drawings for them. I did, of course. It was fun. Looking back, it's interesting how a lot of my friendships were formed through my drawings. Kids would see me drawing and they'd want to learn how to do it, or they just appreciated what I did, and they just were drawn to me, pun intended, of course. And that's how I made a lot of friends, especially in art class. And the teachers were very encouraging and pushed me to, see where my art went. And one of the best things that happened to me was in high school. There was I think he was an art director, Mr. Vega, in it's either 11th or 12th grade, asked me to draw some stuff for this kindergarten science club. It was a paid gig. Yes, he wanted to pay me in high school. This was awesome. And it was a fun project. I got to draw all kinds of things like animals and fruits and vegetables and handling chemistry stuff safely. And at the end of it, I got paid $180. That was a big deal. High school, that was great. But then I started branching out and trying other things. My friend John Lipinski was part of WXBA, our high school radio station at the time, and he encouraged me to become a DJ. So I tried out and passed my FCC operators class and became a DJ at WXBA for several years. And that was a lot of fun, playing the DJ, playing the music. And then my art shifted in the summer of 1987. My mother enrolled me in a summer class at BOCES in Bellport, New York, for TV production. It was a 4-week course, and I learned a lot about TV production. We were in a little studio in the BOCES Center with Mr. Rowland as our teacher, and we had big studio cameras, and we had lighting to learn, editing, mixing, microphones, all that fun stuff. And what was even cool about that was he would lend us video cameras to take home with us and just record stuff, shoot footage. And we'd shoot whatever and watch it the next day with the class. But it was a good way to learn how to use this equipment and operate it. But I also found out that I really loved being in front of the camera. We did mock talk shows, and I did impressions of Stevie Wonder and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it was such a fun deal to play those characters. Then we went and did a newscast, like a mock newscast, and everybody said I should be the anchor. Like, really? I guess they knew at that point I was the ham of all hams. And I did it. It was a good, fun way to be a little comedic and channel that energy. So in the fall of that year, I was continuing my TV production as a senior with Mr. Bill Rogers as our teacher. And we built up a whole studio. We started off in a home ec room, but then we finally built our own studio in another wing of the building from the bottom up. And we had all the cameras and learned so much. Mr. Rogers was demanding of us, but it helped make us better. And I didn't realize it at the time. Of course, we each had to trade off and do stuff behind the camera and in front of the camera. Of course, I was in front of the camera a lot more than behind. But nonetheless, I decided to major in that in college. Went to New York Institute of Technology in Old Westbury, New York, after I graduated. It was a different world. I learned some new things, though. I learned how to operate a film camera, really small Kodak film cameras at the time. Yes, this was actual film that you had to buy from who knows where. I think we had to order the film from Manhattan and then have it sent to Manhattan to develop. Kind of costly on a college student's budget. But then life got in the way, and I had trouble at home. Things sucked. So I decided to make a change of venue and went from Long Island to upstate New York to live with my dad and stepmother. And through those years, I just kind of bounced around, really didn't do anything too creative. I think I did take an acting and TV class in Canandaigua, New York at Finger Lakes Community College. So there was a little bit of creativity there, but it just really went nowhere once I was out of college. And I got even more sidelined when I decided to join the U.S. Air Force. I went through basic training and I was going through as a security cop. But when they were asking for places where you'd want to be stationed, I was even looking ahead at the possibility of being near Hollywood. And there was a base in San Bernardino, California. But those dreams were dashed because I was let go of the Air Force after only 4 months. Apparently, you can't get caught in bed with the general's daughter. I guess they frown upon that. I don't know. No, I wish it was that dramatic. It was some other stuff, and I was sent home. Then I was back upstate, not many prospects, and my dad suggested I move back to Long Island. So I did. Once again, just kind of meandering around, doing odd jobs here, but at the encouragement of my best friend at the time, Khalid. He suggested I go back to college. So I did. I enrolled back into New York Tech. But this time, Khalid was with me, and he encouraged me to audition for a college play. Okay. Khalid knew that I had this creative side to me, and I'm glad he suggested I do it. My first play in college, 1992, was Antigone, a Greek tragedy, where I played the blind prophet Tiresias. And for most of that time on, until I graduated, I was referred to by the nickname Ty. I guess it left an impression. And all the plays were produced by the great Dr. Dan Quigley. He really knew the characters. He knew the story. He was such a good and powerful motivator to get you into character. He knew what he wanted, and he got it out of us. I'm forever thankful for that. Made some new friends and was even an actor in a friend's short film called Footsteps in the Dark, directed by Tommy Viglietta. Got to play a security guard. That was fun. And kept doing more plays until I graduated. And as I graduated, I made the decision that I really wanted to pursue this acting thing full time. So I have a degree in communication arts. And what do? I become a valet. But at the same time, I found this agency on Long Island. I don't remember the name of it. It was kind of a ragtag operation, but the woman running it got me to have my headshots taken and my resume. She was very helpful and landed me my first job as an extra in a movie. I went to Manhattan to film a scene in the movie One Night Stand with Wesley Snipes. And I was part of a parade scene, and we were supposed to be blocking Wesley's exit from New York City in a cab. So Wesley got out of his cab, and we crossed paths. That's right. I was like 2 feet from Wesley Snipes. Like, oh my God, that's him. He's a little shorter than me, which I was surprised, but that was Wesley. So that was my first gig as an extra. Had another one where I was in the audience for the Oscar scene in the movie In and Out, directed by Frank Oz.